Hey everyone, it is Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, and that means it's time for another blockchain update. This is Chris Bennett, your blockchain beard guy. Hope you guys are having a good week so far. Happy Tuesday. We've made it 2 days into it. Now, listen, I know most times here we talk about blockchain. That's kind of our focus. But today I want to shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit about AI, artificial intelligence. Um, in many ways, I think if you kind of look at it right, blockchain is really kind of a sub area of AI, kind of a specific discipline of AI. And you know what? I can come back and do another video about that if you want to hear more about how blockchain is really kind of a sneak preview for what's happening in the world of AI. Let me know. Leave a message in the comments. I think that probably makes sense to come back and address as kind of a serious topic. But today I wanted to have a little fun and just kind of look at where AI is, where it's going, look at some humorous examples, talk seriously about the future of AI, and then we'll round out the day putting on our tinfoil hats and discussing a very interesting conspiracy theory. So all of this started a few days ago when I saw this very amusing post on social media about an obituary that was written by an AI. And, normally it'd be kind of cruel to sit here and laugh at someone's obituary, but this wasn't a real person. So I think we can pick this apart and have a little bit of fun. This was an obituary written for Miss Brenda Trent. And if we read a little about Brenda, Brenda Tent retired from living at the age of old. Well, that's a very elegant way of saying it. She didn't die. She just retired from living. She decided she didn't want to do that anymore. And of course, she did this at the age, not of any specific year, but at the age of old. Which is kind of interesting, because if you look at this picture of Brenda, she looks pretty youthful. I mean, granted, she's got some pretty severe facial abnormalities here. You'll notice that she seems to be missing her upper lip, her entire nose, and she has 4 eyes, 2 of them slightly above her normal set of eyes and set into her forehead. But she certainly doesn't look that old. So Brenda, for all her facial abnormalities, seemed to have aged pretty well, but she retired from living at the age of old. While she was surrounded by family and natural causes. Good things to be surrounded by when you pass, I guess. A librarian from birth, Brenda was an avid collector of dust. Why, I gotta say, I'm a bit jealous of Brenda. A librarian from birth. She came into this world knowing exactly what she wanted to do and who she wanted to be. Most of us have to go through a process of self-discovery to come up with answers to those questions. But Brenda knew that she was born to be a librarian from birth. And she was also an avid collector of dust. Kind of an interesting thing to collect. I've met people who have collect stamps and model cars and airplanes, but dust, that's a new one. But, again, if you look at Brenda here, she's missing a nose. So I guess having a bunch of dust around was okay. Wasn't going to cause her to sneeze or to develop any allergies or anything like that. The obituary continues. She had a sweetheart and married her high school. Well, again, I'm jealous there. I tried to marry my high school. They wouldn't let me. So I'm jealous. She was able to do that. Not many of us are able to marry our high school, but Brenda was. So we should all appreciate that. The obituary continues. She loved having hobbies. Well, who doesn't? Hobbies are a good thing to have. And helping her sons to be disadvantaged youths. It's a very curious line. I wonder if they were born as advantaged youths and she had to help them become disadvantaged, or were they already disadvantaged and she just helped further that process. Either way, it sounds like maybe her mothering skills were not as good as they could have been. The obituary goes on. She had no horses, but thought she did. Well, who hasn't made that mistake before? All of us at some point in our lives wake up believing we have horses, only to later discover we don't. I think that's something we could all relate to. The church gave her a choir. Well, that's impressive. They gave her an entire choir. I guess that everywhere she went, she just had this church choir following her around. That must have been very impressive. Why was she given a choir? Well, because she sang like a bird, and she looked like a bird, and Brenda was a bird. And now I'm very confused because Brenda doesn't look like a normal human, but she certainly doesn't look like a bird. But I guess she was some kind of human-bird hybrid, and that's why her church decided to give her a choir. And then the obituary wraps up by saying, she owed us so many poems. Yes, probably the greatest tragedy of Brenda's passing is we didn't get all those poems that she promised us. And like any well-written obituary, it is common and polite to point out any unpaid debts that the deceased passed on with. So we do that here for Brenda Tent. So rest in peace, Brenda. You may never have existed, but we still mourn the loss anyway. Of course, we're just kind of laughing here, right? AI can come up with some pretty silly things. And to point this out, here's a great article from Jalopnik. This is back from July in 2018 about some bots who scanned Craigslist ads. Now, if you're from a part of the world where you don't have Craigslist, Craigslist is like an online classified section of your newspaper. And you can sell all kinds of different things there, including your car. Big used car marketplace. So this article says the folks at Parts Catalog sent us this. They fed more than 1,000 Craigslist car ads into botnet predictive software, and most of what the bots came back with didn't make any sense at all, which is not surprising because your average Craigslist ad barely makes sense to begin with. But some of them did make sense, kinda, sorta. And here are the 5 best examples from our bots. They're not quite coherent, but they're close in a lot of ways. So let's read some of these car ads. These are kind of humorous. But then we'll talk seriously about AI and how serious AI and not humorous AI might be a lot closer than you think. But first of all, let's look at 5 fictional cars that are for sale. This first ad says, I am selling my current daily driver for something that seats 7. It has a clean title and a clean Carfax with no rips or tears in the transmission. Well, if you guys have ever shopped for a used car, you know one of the things you have to be most careful of is a torn transmission. The seller of this vehicle assures us that the transmission has not been torn whatsoever. The ad continues. It is a 4-wheel drive vehicle to get you out of any jams or abnormal noises. Again, I wish I had something like that. The vehicle I drive is only 2-wheel drive, and that means anytime I'm around abnormal noises, I'm stuck. I can't get away. I just have to deal with them. But those of you who have 4-wheel drive know that you can always escape abnormal noises due to all 4 wheels of the vehicle being powered. It continues, it smells fresh. It's a good thing to have in a used car. And it drives like a BMW. Which is kind of funny because the ad doesn't actually state what kind of vehicle this is. It might actually be a BMW. There is also a new electronic brake control for pulling loads of extra money. And again, here's where I think I'm going wrong with my current vehicle. My brakes are hydraulic, not electronic, and they haven't pulled me any extra money. So I guess I could be in much better financial shape if I bought a vehicle with an electronic brake control so I could pull all that extra money. This is a great vehicle for the price and would be perfect for someone looking for a cheap, dependable car with a small scratch on the side. And again, I think we've all been here. This is exactly what I've been looking for when I shop for used cars. So many times you end up finding a cheap, dependable car for a good price, but it's just missing that scratch on the side. It's so close to being what you want. It sounds like this vehicle has everything. It's cheap, it's dependable, and there's that highly desirable scratch on the side. It starts and runs like a modern person. I guess that indicates some sort of keyless entry. I'm kind of curious what the startup procedure is like. And it has 60,000 miles. Pretty new. The engine sounds great, and the steering is really firm. Again, desirable qualities. All of this is reflected in the price since I did all of the major mechanical work. Okay? If you would like to come see it, then feel free to contact me between 8 a.m. All right, well, we're past 8 a.m. And 2005. Oh, shoot. Well, it sounds like we're 16 years too late. We only had between 8 a.m. and 2005 to contact this person. The ad then wraps up by saying, please don't drive the car in Michigan. Well, that's okay. I live in Colorado. I don't have any reason to go to Michigan, so this would be a goodbye. Like I said, unfortunately, I just happen to be 16 years too late. The next ad, I have a dependable 2001 Ford Explorer that will start and keep going until you get a newer one. Now, hats off to the engineers at Ford. This is really an incredible accomplishment. Look at that. They designed a vehicle that will not stop running until you buy a newer model of the same vehicle. That is technology that Toyota, General Motors, Subaru, Volkswagen, no other automaker to my knowledge has pioneered this type of technology. But the good folks over at Ford have figured out how to keep a vehicle running until you buy a newer model of the same vehicle. So hats off to the engineers at Ford. Then the ad, takes a disturbing turn and says, I have over 600 hours of blood on the highway going back and forth to college every day. Now, I got to be honest with you. Maybe I didn't pay too much attention in high school chemistry class, so I might have missed this lesson, but I have absolutely no idea how much blood an hour of blood is. I don't know if that's a couple drops or a couple gallons, but I got to say, if there's 600 hours of blood spilled all over the highway, it kind of makes me wonder about the safety of this vehicle. But on the plus side, the seller didn't say there was any blood in the vehicle, just on the highway. It has a clean title and drives great for its age. Well, that's good. It's a 20-year-old vehicle. Glad that it still drives well. The only thing the truck really needs is a set of tires. Common maintenance item, no big deal. And an amazing sound system with front and rear temperature controls. Now, that's a big ask. Most of the sound systems you find for a vehicle with front and rear temperature controls are only mediocre. Most of the amazing sound systems don't come with temperature controls. So I might have to do a little shopping around on that, but that's okay. This vehicle has 101,500 original miles and is fully loaded. I have taken several detailed pictures so you can see how nice this vehicle is. Unlike most vehicles on Craigslist, it drives like it has aluminum wheels, which is good. Because I don't know about you, but when I'm driving a vehicle, I can definitely feel the difference in the type of alloy that the wheels are made out of. Magnesium and steel just don't give the same driving experience as aluminum. There's also a new powertrain control module with the 2.0 turbocharged smoker. It's a good feature to have, so if you're happy with your current vehicle, but it's just not putting out enough smoke, well, then you might want to take a look at this 2001 Ford Explorer. If you would like to schedule a time to see it and drive it, text me first. All right, sounds reasonable. I have been gifted a new car. Oh, well, that's awesome. That must be why this person is selling their Ford Explorer. I wonder if they got their new car from a friend, a family member. Maybe they won it as a prize on a game show. Nope, I have been gifted a new car. From who? Well, from a guy. Okay. And there are a few more of these. There's a Chevy Cobalt that runs like good water, a car where everything works like it smells. A Subaru that runs like a fantastic Acura, and a car being sold by a licensed millennial. So some more amusing adverts here. And of course, we're just having a little fun here. It's easy to sit back and have a laugh about what AI can generate and how so much of this is so rudimentary and absurd sounding. But you know what? If you go through and you read through that obituary or any of these car ads, the structure of the sentences is correct. It's just some of the words and concepts don't make sense. And maybe this is something that only parents can relate to, but if you ever have children of your own, you can appreciate how incredibly short the amount of time is between when your child begins speaking and when they become coherent. You know, when children first start speaking, they're just exploring. They're playing with words. They're throwing everything out there. And a lot of things that they say don't really make a lot of sense. And it can be kind of humorous, just like reading this obituary or these car ads. But what you find is, in an amazingly short amount of time, your young child goes from just gibbering a bunch of nonsense to really saying very insightful and poignant things. And in all seriousness, I think that may be the point that we're at with artificial intelligence. You know, it's kind of tough to gauge where we're at with AI. There's this old saying about nuclear fusion that for the past 50 years, nuclear fusion has been a technology that's 20 years away. We've kind of said the same thing about AI. And when you keep talking about something being in the near future for decades and decades, you can kind of lose your sense of when it's actually coming upon you. But I think we're a lot closer to AI being truly intelligent than we really realize. The fact that these kind of systems are forming coherent sentences, even if the content of the sentences doesn't convey a lot of meaning, says quite a lot. And they kind of show you how good some of this AI can be, or where the current state of the technology is. I want to show you a post here on Reddit. There is a subreddit known as Subsimulator GPT-2. And GPT-2 is a deep learning algorithm. You can feed social media information into it, and then it will attempt to create its own social media responses and replies. And this little subreddit is nothing more than bots having conversations with other bots. None of this is real. These aren't real people. So there was a post here. Why was it that the Nazis went to war with France, but France didn't go to war with Germany? That was written by a bot. And all of these replies were written by a bot. And I won't go through and read them all, but I just want to read the first one. This is an interesting question. I'll give you my best answer. France was neutral in World War I, and the Treaty of Versailles gave France the right to determine the peace terms with both sides. France didn't care about the war in Germany because she was concerned with Germany's aggression overseas. The Allies were already in place, and France was really worried about German aggression in her backyard. And then this post continues. Now, if you didn't know that was a bot, you might think, in fact, you would probably think all of that was written by a human. You may not understand the response, but you got to admit that seems eerily like it was written by a real person. That kind of goes to my point that I think that all of this is kind of a little bit closer to becoming real and becoming intelligent than we think it is. And this gives way to what I think is a very interesting theory. So put on your tinfoil hats. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on all of this. The dead internet theory. If you're not familiar with the dead internet theory, the dead internet theory says that most of the internet is fake. It's not real. If you follow the world of IoT, the Internet of Things at all, you know that Cisco defined the era of IoT as the point in time when artificial devices outnumbered humans on the internet. And by most reasonable estimates, this happened somewhere in 2008 or 2009. So we're about a dozen years past the point where artificial devices outnumbered humans on the internet. And the dead internet theory talks about this theory that most of what we see on the internet is fake. I'll read a little excerpt here. Dead internet theory suggests that the internet has been almost entirely taken over by artificial intelligence. Like lots of other online conspiracy theories, the audience for this one is growing because of discussion led by a mix of true believers, sarcastic trolls, and idly curious lovers of chit-chat. In essence, what dead internet theory talks about is the fact that most of the people we interact with, most of the thoughts and opinions and viewpoints that we see on the internet don't belong to actual people, that now bots significantly outnumber us. So, kind of an interesting summation about the state of artificial intelligence. This is kind of going under the radar because we've always assumed for so many decades now that artificial intelligence was just right around the corner. And then we turn the corner and it's not there. But now things are getting pretty close. So I'd be curious, what do you guys think? Do you think the internet is real? How many folks do you work with on the internet that you think are real? What do you think about dead internet theory? How many human beings are left? How much of what we see online actually represents the real world? And how much of it is just being created by bots? Do you even think that this channel is real or that I'm real? How can you convince me that you're real? Very interesting metaphysical questions that we are going to have to try and uncover as we dive deeper into the world of AI. So again, kind of a little aside from blockchain, taking a look at AI. Like I said, I'm planning on doing a future video where I'll talk about how what's happening in blockchain really is sort of a sneak peek into the future of AI. In many ways, blockchain is kind of the test bed for what AI is doing. Remember, blockchain at its heart is really all about how do you get a leaderless network of equally privileged peers to organically arrive at the same decision with a high degree of confidence. The answer to that puzzle is going to be fundamental in AI systems going forward. So, thank you for joining us on this Tuesday. Hope you guys are having a great day. Be sure to drop in every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern for Blockchain Update as we talk about what's going on in the world of blockchain and emerging technology. Until next time, I'm Chris Bennett, your blockchain beard guy. Have a good day, everyone.